Hey, Papercut here with another replay review. This time we're reviewing Big Salty Ham. Love the name. He posted on the Reddit that he was struggling against the intermediate AI. And I think this is an important replay to do because there's plenty of new players who are joining onto the game who their first introduction is playing against the AI. Now, if that's you, I do actually have a video about what you should be able to do against the AI under my AoE4 school video, but I think this is a great chance to actually show someone's play at this level, talk about what they're doing well, what they need to improve, because I think it's really important that you're able to beat at least hardest AI before jumping into the ladder, because it shows you have the basic level skills to start building off of. So what we're going to be looking for out of Big Salty Ham is a few things. One, that he has a build order. He has something he's doing to get out of the Dark Age into feudal, and he has a goal in mind. So is his goal to boom into castle with the cow landmark and get cows? Is his goal to rush castle and do the Firmic garrison? Is his goal to fight feudal? Whatever it may be. Two, some basic macro stuff. I'm looking for him to scout well in the Dark Age, so do a good scouting pattern to get sheep and then locate the opponent and then continuously check what their opponent is doing. I'm looking for them to always be making villagers, to be adjusting the villagers onto good resources and to balance those resources based on the goal they have in mind. And lastly, when it's time to make units and fight, I'm looking for them to be able to consistently make units and use those units correctly. I think on top of that, picking the correct unit for what the opponent is running. So Big Salty Ham is playing against the HRE, which is a great civ for the Malians, because the HRE really want to go men-at-arms. They want to go heavy gold units, and the Malians are like specials. They're specialties against that. They have the Mustafadi Warrior, who does great against men-at-arms, and then they're in castle, their archers can have poison arrows, which do great against everything. And lastly, they have their Sofa, which are really good light knight, basically, that can hold their own against men-at-arms as well. So, with that, let's go ahead and hop in. I also like that he's new to the game and he's playing the Malians. I think a big deal is a lot of times you will see new players only pick English and French because they're easy. Sure, they are, but in reality, you can start on any of the civs, because every single civ is different enough that if you learn them, pick them up. I mean, I think to me, what the most important thing is that you would think the civ is cool and you enjoy it, you'll improve on it much faster. And the Mines are so underplayed that he could get a lot of value out of it. Okay, so I see you starting your build order. The basic thing is you want to speed that up just a little bit. That just comes from reps. So you get the 5 on the wood, which is great. You sent your 1 out to start the pit mine. My suggestion is you have them start the pit mine, and then you're going to click on the house, shift, and then build the houses you can start off building, which is 2 of them. And your goal is to build. Some Malian build orders have you do 4, some maybe do 6. We'll see which one you end up doing. So you actually send your scout out to the outside first. And I want to break down why this is not necessarily the best idea. You have to imagine that you and your opponent, the map is split in half, right? With this being the halfway point. And you notice, look, I'm in the middle of the map, and there's all these sheep right here. Your goal on almost every single map is to always start by having your scout come out towards the center of the map and then come to the side and back to your base, drop off. The reason being is that you should basically cover the first 4th of the map, and you will get back to your base by the time you're running out of the first 3 sheep. So what you've done is ensure that you get your share of the middle sheep, get the side sheep that should be yours, and drop them off. And why this is effective is that if the way you're doing this right now, if you go over here and your opponent goes center, they get all the center sheep, get all their side sheep, and you've gone this way all the way around, he has time to drop off and go back up here and get the rest of your side. So basically he has gotten the middle and whole side if you only got one side of sheep for yourself. So you will have less. Not only that, you will probably inefficiently check the map, and you won't get the whole map uncovered by the time your opponent hits feudal. And you need to be at your opponent's base by the time you hit feudal to see their first steps. And you need to uncover as much of the map as possible so you know the resources and how to react. Second, you have not queued up villagers to start. So it's been 40 seconds and you haven't queued up a single villager, means you are down 2 villagers. That's bad because every villager you don't make is a villager's production you're out of for the rest of the game. And your opponent will have made 2. So now your opponent is ahead of you economically. So when you start the game, the first thing you should practice is the second you enter. I always start by clicking my town center. I have a hotkey to the side of my mouse, so whatever you want to do with that, and just hit Q as many times as I can. Q. So for you, you should be able to hit Q 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I put them on the sheet, which is where they should go. But you click the TC onto the resource, so they're not wasted. They're not sitting there not doing anything. Then I do my villagers. Actually, I do Q, 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 Q. I click on my scout and just click in the center of the map. Then I do my villager start on their things. But make sure you need to queue villager. And see, already you haven't actually started making villagers still, so you're still sitting on the original 6. And you should be at 3 more villagers by now. So that's a huge thing. The AI isn't going to forget to do that. Never mind, the AI has 1 villager, so that suggests that they did forget to do that. But a good opponent, well, that's because they went 2 scout. So scouts take 25 seconds and there's 70 food. So that's why. But you need to make sure you're queuing villagers. I'm going to keep saying that throughout the game, because if I give feedback and it's important, I haven't seen you do it, I'm going to give it to it again. I'm going to watch your point of view too. I want to see how you're looking at this. So your camera view is very low. If you notice what I'm watching, mine's pretty high. Try that out. You can go into the settings and change the view of your camera. I think the zoomed out allows you to see a lot more, allows you to take in a lot more. So here's the thing, you're focusing, so you're still watching, and you haven't made any more villagers yet. And I wonder if that's because you don't want to spend the food. Because in your mind, you're like, well, I need the food to age up. That's all well and good. But if the food, it's always worthwhile to spend food on getting villagers. You never want to stop making villagers. The way to think about it is, if I make villagers, I'm your opponent, and you don't, I will actually beat you to feudal anyway, because I can rally villagers to the sheep. And 2, I can, and that means I can outproduce you, and that means that I will have more units than you, because I will always have more eco than you. So that's why a key thing that's always said to new players is never, ever, ever stop making villagers. I also didn't get any sheep on that run. Wow. Oh, so when you cut back, you didn't get the little side part here. Unfortunate. But that's also a key part of your build. You right now should have 5 or 6 on food right now. And the build order, in the opening build order for mines is actually pretty easy. In my opinion, you did too many houses. I would have done 4. I would have done enough wood to do 4 houses. So that's another chop 50. And then you need enough to do a mining camp. And then you just send them to sheep. So basically, fully cut down 1 straggler or 3/4 of a straggler. And then you send them to sheep. And then you just send all of them to food until you age up. And that's when you do your splits. You'll age up with 4. You'll leave 4 on food. And the rest will go to wood. Because you need a lot of wood when you open up Emollients, because you need to get a lumber camp, you need to build another pit mine, you need to get production, you need to start making cows, things like that. So I would check the Malian build order that you're using and notice that. If you notice any build order, it always includes building lots of villagers as a big thing. Ooh, so this is when bouncing back and forth between your scout and your base is helpful. Now, in your early game, I would actually much rather you focus on making sure your economy is better. So if you want to spend more time on your TC, it's fine. But you should once again, micro TC, and as well as hotkey scout. So 1 on TC, 2 on scout, and you do that by holding control, and then whatever number you want it locked on. And so I would just check if you double click 1, like I have, I'm on the TC, double click 2, I'm on the scout. I would keep checking. I would like check these dark areas right as I'm running by, and then I'm making sure I'm making villagers and splitting. You still haven't made another villager, which is concerning. I can show it to you on the graph here on the map. So your AI opponent has 10, and you have 6, and you notice how much more income he has than you. He currently has 360 worth. You have 270 worth of income. So that's going to be the biggest thing. If you just make more villagers, now you're making more villagers, but this is too late. But if you've been doing this from the start, you'd have such a better eco. And notice this. Look how much gold you have right now. A big goal of the Dark Age is to get to the Feudal Age as fast as possible. You advance to the Feudal Age with 400 food, 200 gold. What you need to do, the goal is, at any age up, is you hit 400 food and 200 gold at the same time. You can tell you got too much gold because you have way too much gold and not enough food. And part of that just comes from you're not rallying to food. Okay, now you age up. Okay. And so, and this is another response to this, is that since you haven't been rallying to food, you are out of food. To always making villagers, you need 4 on food. So you should never take less than 4 off food because you always need to be able to make villagers. So I've done a lot of explaining, but a big thing about just being successful in this game is if you had more villagers, have a better eco, you're in a lot better spot. That would kill you against most players. So what to think about is when you're walking your scout around, if they're going near the spot that's the same spot on the map across from you, that's where their town center is. So you need to be watching your scout carefully when that happens. You got a good start. You got a good notice of your opponent. You notice where their food is. You didn't see their gold, but you saw all their villagers were like around the TC, so they're still getting food. Now, what's your opening move? Okay, you're on wood. Okay. So, what the first thing you do is get your scout back to the opponent. Back to. Now, I don't see a lot of opening changes as you enter the Feudal Age. So, let's kind of walk through some possibilities. If you wanted to fight immediately, to put pressure on your opponent and make a decision from there, you need to get down some sort of... Oh, did you get the glitch? Yeah, on some maps, it's been glitching for the Malians, which sucks. But it's saying you have 2 pit mines built, you should be able to build another one. So most times it allows you to do that, sometimes the game glitches out, so that sucks. But we need to make a decision here. What are you doing? Are you opening Feudal Fight? If that's the case, you need to drop your production and get going. My suggestion is you open up Barracks and Archer. You want Donzo and Javelin Thrower. Why? Because they cover each other's weaknesses. That's the way you want to think about your comps. So Donzos are good against cavalry, and then stand up to other, and so they provide a good front line. Javelin Throwers are really good against archers, which archers are the things that best defeat Donzos. You notice how they kind of cover each other, and then the Donzos can defend the Javelin Throwers. You're also going to want to get a blacksmith for military upgrades, as well as a mill so you can start getting your other economic upgrades. And if you're doing a boom, you also need that mill to then start making cattle ranches and put cows in your cattle ranches. I hope you know what those things are, because to play a Civ, you need to break down the Civ and understand what it does. And so, also, you want to get a mill because the mill has some of the most important economic upgrades. You need to balance your start with getting good economic upgrades and military. So, good economic upgrades are ones that you need for the resources you need the most. So, for example, if you need a lot of wood, and you're going to have like 10 villagers on wood, you'd want to get double rod axe because it vastly increases how fast your villagers gather wood. A good economic upgrade that any Civ should get in the mill is wheelbarrow, because it makes your villagers faster and they can carry more, which helps every single one of your villagers. So economic upgrades would help you a lot. But when you put in your message, I'm struggling to make enough units, a lot is coming together as to why. One, you're not making units. You notice you're spending this time not making units. You could be making units right now, but you're not. You have 9 on food, and you have a lot of wood, but you haven't spent the wood to make military units, or to make production. You haven't spent the food to make military units. So, for context, you're at the 8-minute mark. In a normal game, if you watch people play multiplayer games, they already have plenty of army. They're already fighting. They're already sparring and checking each other's bases. And trying to attack villagers, and you have no military yet. Also, this idle scout doesn't do anything for you. Right now, you have no idea what your opponent is doing. You have no idea that he dropped a archer range. You have no idea that they have 5 on gold, so they're getting a lot of gold. You have no idea anything what they're doing. And so the scout needs to be used. The scout needs to be, 1, you should uncover the rest of the map, so you know the resources your opponent might go on, but 2, you need to see what your opponent's doing, because if you saw archery range, you would want to drop your own archery range and get javelin throwers, or a stable and get horsemen or sofas. Okay, so you drop a stable and a barracks and archery range. Okay, so you're doing one of each. Safe option, but we also want to make sure we're conserving resources. So, okay, you also getting wheelbarrow. Awesome. We want to make sure we're conserving resources. So I would only drop of the things you absolutely sure you're going to use, which is where scouting helps. If you see what they have, you know you only need to make insert unit. Also, what's really helpful is you're going to be on deer, so Rebel Techniques is great. It really, really helps the amount of food you get off hunted meat. Something you also might know is that every food source is worth a different amount. You get different from it. So you can't get boar, but boar is one of the best food resources. Let me start from the bottom, actually. So the worst is berries, followed by farms, then deer, then sheep, then boar. Now, you can't get boar. The reason being is that you have such an advantage on passive food. You get passive food from cattle ranches by making cows and putting them in ranches, that you don't get the boar. It's kind of the trade-off. But let's actually take a second and look at your resources. You have a lot of food. You have a lot of gold. It feels like you're going to have to go castle, but you have no idea what your opponent is doing once again. So you don't know if this is the right move. Why would it might not be the right move? If you decide to go castle and you've made no defensive units and your opponent has made units, then when you go castle, they'll walk in with their military and kill your villagers and you can't do anything. So some things you should always be doing. You need to be following this thing what I call the macro cycle. Macro cycle is you checking your resources and adjusting based on what you want to do. So, here's tips of the macro cycle. You should do this as a rotating check. Am I making villagers? Am I making military? Do those things. Even if you want to go castle, you should make a few units to defend yourself. And it's good to know what units to make based on what the units your opponent's making. It also helps if you see your opponent dropping a lot of units, you need more units or else he's going to kill you. So you check in if you're making villagers, always making villagers. You check in military, you're making military. You check your resources and see what resources do I have. You would have noticed that you had a bunch of gold and a bunch of food and not enough wood. If that's the case, you'd want to rally villagers to the resource that you need. And that's based on your goal. If your goal is to go castle and then do Fimbulwinter Garrison, you need a lot of food and a lot of gold. And this Fimbulwinter Garrison is great, but it's great because it uses just gold. I notice you have no villagers on gold. So here's the thought process. If you want to win with this plan, you need to adjust your resources for that plan. Right now, I should see you be moving a lot of villagers to gold to pay for these units. And you need to be making another pit mine when you age up to get more gold. Because if you don't have gold, you won't be able to make the units out of the Fimbulwinter Garrison. You make another scout. Now you're just making scouts. Okay. So I'm curious what unit you're going to go for coming out of here. I would suggest Musafati Warriors and Javelin Throwers based on your opponent. I want you to look at this with me. You notice how they only cost gold. But right now you could only make basically 2 or 3 sets of a unit because you don't have a lot of gold coming in. That doesn't even include the upgrades you need. You need to upgrade them to their castle upgrades to make them more powerful. One of the reasons you want to go castle, go third age, is to get stronger units. But you need to upgrade them. You notice that costs food and that costs gold. And so that's sort of the macro check I'm talking about, where you want to check what your villagers are doing. You're making more, and you check your resources and realize if I'm going to make out of Fimbulwinter Garrison, I need way more gold. Okay, so you're saving your next pet mine, that's great. On the big gold mine, that's good too. You're making archers. Okay, so look, this is a surprise to you. You didn't realize he had horsemen or archers because you never scouted his base. If you scouted his base, you'd see he has a huge army right now. And so in your post, you talked about like, I don't know, I couldn't outproduce him. We couldn't outproduce him because he's been making units since he hit feudal, and you haven't. And then when you hit your big power spike in castle, the building that's going to allow you to produce a lot of units, you didn't create the eco to match that. So you didn't notice, like the thought process is, what do I need to make a lot of units? I need gold. Oh, so I need to make villagers and put them on gold. Because right now you're going to have so much food that you can't spend because you don't have the resource needed. Lastly, you have 19 villagers and he has 25. So he's obviously going to be able to produce more than you. And keep in mind, it's the AI. It's the Immunity AI. They're not making villagers. You should have way more villagers. You should have a lot of villagers right now that are giving you economy to help you fight. So you are kind of microing this, which is good. But if he sends his entire military over, you're dead. Because you don't know what he has, and you're not making the counters to what he has. For example, you have cavalry and scouts, which aren't that strong, and you have archers, which aren't upgraded yet. So they're still... oh, they are. Okay, never mind. I'm dumb. But he has archers and horsemen. And you're lucky he's the AI, he's actually sending them forward. I thought he had spearmen too. I swear he had spearmen. Am I dumb? I think I'm dumb. I swore he had spearmen. But anyway, if he goes military at all, once again, he's playing very passive because he's the intermediate AI. But look, you're not making units consistently. Okay, now you're putting your cattle ranch here. Let's think about the placement here. You'll often see people put their cattle ranches around their TCY. Well, this cattle ranch is towards your enemy. So if your enemy ran units up, it won't live. It'll get killed. You want to put economic resources like cattle ranches in the back of your base where it's harder for the opponent to get to and can be protected. And then you could put a wall here, put a wall here, put a wall here, and protect those. Because you want to protect your economy safe. You want to make it safe. Once again, you're not consistently making units. You try to make them just out of the Feremba, but you don't have the goal because you never adjusted your villages. You never asked, what resource do I need right now? Instead, you have a lot of food. And so in that case, just make units with food. You mostly just need something to sit in front of these archers. You're not doing it. I get your other economic upgrades. You got food, but you could get the gold one. You could get the... we also need military upgrades. So you really need to get a blacksmith and get military upgrades. And since you're in castle, you could get mosque and get the relics. But I'm not worried. I was worried about that right now. So look at this army. This tells you right now you're not producing enough. So notice how your cattle ranch is in the front here. But you just hit enough resources for Imperial, and that should tell you that you haven't been spending. If you have this many resources off this many military, you're just not making military. And one way to do that, you can put all your military buildings on a hotkey. So I held shift and I clicked on each one. Put it on 3. If I click 3, I have all my military buildings. I can use tab to cycle between them and use my hotkeys to build. But you should always be spending down. Like, spend down your resources to make units. And so he's the AI, so he's going to sit here and let you kill him. But you need to make units. Like, you're just not making units. And you're only making that on a Feremba, which is nice. Okay, now you make the Fortress of the Huntress. But, I mean, once again, the biggest reason why you're not able to outmake the opponent, the AI, is because you're not making villagers. So you don't have the economy to do it. So you just spawn your resource, now you have no food. You finally got enough gold, but you're not spending it consistently. For example, if I look at your point of view on double speed, you're kind of looking around. And you're taking a lot of time to make decisions, right? Which is fine at this early stage. But even if you're super slow, you should still be always checking TC to make villagers. Okay, now I'm going to make as many units as my resources allows. I want you to queue everything. And now you get all your upgrades. But look, you just spent all the gold on these upgrades that are going to take forever to come through. I would only do 2 at a time. See how good counter unit? But like, I'm actually gonna stop here because now it's gonna be you slow playing it against the AI. The biggest thing I've noticed. So let's summarize. On your next few games against the AI, you should practice the following: 1, always be making villagers. 2, make sure you're splitting your villagers amongst the resources. So make sure you're getting food and gold and wood. If you want to practice doing that kind of castle thing, that's fine. But I would actually practice just winning, and try just find winning in feudal at first against the AI. So drop production, make units, and go fight them. And the way you beat them is by researching siege engineering and using your infantry to drop rams and winning that way. So try winning in feudal first. Once you win in feudal, then practice going to castle and doing the Farimba or doing the Cow Landmark. Like, practice those things because you want to be able to do both. So 1 is making villagers. 2 is always be making military. And if you notice you have way more of one resource, that tells you that you over made villagers to that resource. 3 is getting to feudal as fast as possible. So rewatch the Malian build order. There's a bunch of people on YouTube who make them, and actually make sure you're doing it correctly and getting to feudal as fast as possible. And lastly, use your scout to go look at your opponent. If your scout had been around your opponent's base, you would have seen, like doing circles on the outside, you would have seen what he was making, and you wouldn't have been surprised. And you would have seen, he was, like, for example, the AI set up trade. He's getting 24 gold a trader every time they hit each side. He's making men-at-arms. Like, these things you don't know because you haven't been bringing your scout up to see. And at this level, you should be able to outmass the AI. The reason you weren't able to, because you didn't make units, you didn't make military, villagers to get the economy, to make the military units to win. Hope that was helpful to you. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know. If you want, if you're ever interested in direct private coaching, I coach at any skill level, and I'd be happy to help you if that's something you'd be interested in, or anyone else watching this video. So take care, and good luck on your games. And I hope you enjoy Age of Empires, where it's a great game. I love it dearly, and you will notice you pick this game up faster and faster. It feels like a lot at first, but it will get better. Don't be hard on yourself. Keep learning. I would watch other people play. AoE 4 World is a great example of that. You can go watch high-level people play and watch what they do. It's a great way to learn. But yeah, good luck, and keep grinding.